I am standing in front of a mountain of garlic scapes. And I tell you, it's like literally a mountain. So I grow quite a bit of garlic. I think I maybe planted about 250 bulbs last fall. If you haven't seen it, I do have a video on that, so be sure to check that out if you're interested to know how to grow garlic. So the scape is what comes out of the center of the garlic plant, and this comes out about a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before it's time to actually harvest them. So these kind of grow out, and if you leave them on the garlic, this part of it gets bigger and it creates like a kind of flower bud, and it's full of seeds. So you want to remove these from your garlic plant once they're bigger. Usually once it curls around twice, it's time to remove them. And the reason why you would remove them from your garlic, for your garlic to continue to produce this and to make the flower, you're taking away the energy that would go towards, I guess, making a larger bulb. So you remove the scapes to increase the size of your bulb. Now these are actually little gems, and I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do with all of these, but I do have a plan at least for some of these. So what I'd like to do with these is to dehydrate some, and I'm not sure if I'm going to grind it into a powder yet, or I'm just going to leave it like in little flakes of dehydrated, because this garlic scape you can substitute in recipes where it calls for garlic, and they'll keep for a few weeks in your fridge if you keep them cool, but otherwise they don't really have like a longer shelf life than a few weeks in your fridge. So my plan is to dehydrate as much as I can, and that way I'll be able to have some for a much longer time, at least for 6 months if I dehydrate enough of it. And after that we'll see. So you can use the dehydrated garlic scapes in place of, it has a little bit of a milder flavor than regular garlic. So some people will eat them raw. You can even slice them up raw, put them inside of salads. So they're not as strong as garlic. But if you could smell this, I feel like I'm sitting in a pot full of garlic. It just smells very strong of garlic. But the scapes per se have a much milder garlic flavor. So as you can see, I've got quite a bit to do. So let's get those ready to put into the dehydrator. So what you need to do when you're preparing your garlic scape is you need to remove this part, like just below where the flower would form, and this part, and you just discard that. It's really tougher, it's kind of woodier, and it's not very tasty, so you just keep more of the bottom part of the scapes. I'm going to chop them up, and as I go I'm going to put them directly on my dehydrator. So like I said, you cut off the tip where the flower is and discard those, and then you just chop them up. I'm going to I don't want to cut them too small because I don't want them to fall through the spaces of my dehydrator. So it's a little bit hard because they want to curl. So you just keep going, and then when you want to add them to your dehydrator, you just put them on, trying not to let them fall through. I do have a few trays like this that I will be putting on every other row, so that if they do fall through, they won't fall all the way through, they'll get caught in these trays. So I'm just going to continue this process until I get all my scapes all cut up and onto the dehydrator. So my mountain has reduced considerably, my mountain of scapes anyway. I've got 6 pretty full trays of scapes all cut up. I did end up putting some parchment paper on the trays that didn't have the additional trays because everything kept falling through and I just couldn't deal with it. So I put parchment paper. It should be fine. It may not dry as well with the parchment paper, but they were all gonna fall through and be all on one on top of the other anyway, so I think they'll dry better that way, no matter what. So now what I gotta do is I am going to start this dehydrating. So I will set this at 125 degrees to dehydrate the garlic, hopefully between 6 to 8 to 10 hours. We'll see how long it's going to take to dehydrate. One more little note is I think I'm going to plug this in the garage and not inside of my house, because having garlic dehydrating for 6 to 8 hours inside the house may not smell the best. So I'm going to bring this out to the garage, let it dehydrate, check on it once in a while, and I will keep you updated on how it's going. These are my dehydrated garlic scapes. Look at them. So this is how they're supposed to look once they're dehydrated. When you break them, they're brittle. They really snap. So I really had to work my way, kind of, you know, handling them all, touching them all to make sure that they were all properly dehydrated, because some of them didn't dehydrate quite as well as the others, and I saved some just to show the difference. If you look at this one, that would be there, it's the same color as these that are really brittle, but when you pick it up and you can see that it's still very pliable. I can bend it and it doesn't break, it's not brittle. So I got a few of those that I just kind of put aside and I'll maybe use fairly soon. But really when I go through the rest of them, they're really brittle. You can really hear them snapping as I break them. And I have to say that it took a lot more than 6 to 8 to 10 hours, like I had originally said. It took at least, oh, this is another one that's not quite as dry as I'd like. I want to say that it took in all somewhere around, if I'd have done it non-stop, around 24 hours to dehydrate. Maybe I left them too big, I don't know, but anyways, it took a lot longer, somewhere along the lines of 24 hours. So make sure that if you're doing this, that you check them often. And I did do it in the garage, and towards the end I was able to bring them inside. The scent wasn't as strong after you know, a good 10-12 hours of dehydrating. They didn't smell as strong, and I was able to bring them inside after. So what do I do with this now? What my plan is I'm going to powder it. I'm going to turn this into a powder so I can make different things, incorporate them in different recipes. So I'm going to do that with my blender. So let's get this in the blender and see how we turn this into a powder. We're going to start it off slow. It's really blending well into a powder. Whew, losing some of it. I have a pretty good blender, but if you look, it's still pretty chunky. It looks good on the sides, but when you really get in there, it's still quite the big pieces. So I'm going to turn it up some more, maybe add a little more. And then add the rest, because I want it all as a powder. A little bit more, it's still got a few chunks in it. So here is the result of my dehydrated garlic scapes. I have about half of my garlic scapes here, which would be somewhere around 120 to 125 garlic scapes, which has given me the equivalent of quite a good amount. I can see myself using this like in a garlic butter. If I want to make garlic butter instead of using real garlic, I can add this powder. Anywhere where you would use garlic powder, you can substitute it for this garlic scape powder. I think there's enough. I could even give some away. So I'm not quite sure who the lucky person will be, but we'll see. So I hope I've succeeded in giving you some ideas of what you can do with your garlic scapes. If you're like me and you get mountains of these every year, I do have a video as well that talks about pickling the garlic garlic scapes. So be sure to check that one out as well. If you like this video, don't be shy. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Give it a thumbs up as well. And be sure to check back again soon to see what other content I'll have coming out.